weekend all. Ira Epstein of Linn Associates with your financial market wrap-up, your weekend edition for this Friday, the 3rd of January, 2020. The markets are closed, and as you can see, a down day in the stock market. Metals got a pretty good bid, a mixed day in the currencies, and energy's a very strong bid. What's going on? Well, by now you should know that President Trump ordered an attack at the Baghdad airport, took out an Iranian general, an Iraqi military person that was affiliated with him, and 5 other people. In other words, it was a takeout, and it was with intelligence done, and it was intentional. How is the market going to look at it? Well, it depends. His base, and I'm talking the president's base, probably says you're not going to mess with America. That's been missing a long time. I think you'd agree with that. I am not saying that's the right or wrong thing. I don't want to go into the politics because that's not what this update's about. I'm talking about what occurred. Now what you have to wait for is the retaliation, if there is one, and I would expect that Iran is going to retaliate. The brains that be keep saying a cyber attack. Other people say it'll be on installations. There's plenty of targets. But the oil market up strong because there's fear that the Iranians might disrupt everything. My own thinking, well, their ally is China, Russia. It doesn't do a lot of good to cut off your allies' oil supply and then make the U.S. supply more out of our shale. I don't know. I just don't know. But that is the reason, the unknown that came in. If you'll recall, we've been talking about on the dailies that the Santa Claus rally typically comes to an end somewhere between the 3rd and 7th of January. Seeing this market do this today sort of fits right in with that general thinking of mine. So we'll see what happens. The important thing is the break today in the stock market, it was not severe. It's like a normal day's trade. I don't know what to say. For the month, and remember, there's only 2 days of the month, we're up 4 points right now. Now, if you look at last month, the market was up 87 S&P points. That's pretty large. So we haven't given anything up, even with what occurred today. As you take a look at the weekly area chart, you're down 2 points. Okay, do you call that a big break from ending the last week up 6? No, you gave back a third of it. Could we get a correction, a rounding top here? We could do anything. Nothing goes on forever, but I have to say this. We're an 11-year bull market. We get corrections. They can go 5%, 10%. Big ones can go even deeper. And certainly, should this escalation from Iran attack and we go tit for tat, it can take on its own life. You've got to be aware of that. However, as a chartist and throwing out world news, this market's still fully intact, bullish speaking. What you had was a key reversal day. That's a negative. Now, what is that? It's the highest high of a move. You took out the previous week's high and low, and you closed lower for the week. That is a negative on the chart. It gets negated if the market can take out this week's high and especially close over it. Barring that, it's a warning sign, I think, to a lot of chartists. Now, the pattern is certainly one of higher lows on the swing line and higher highs. And what a swing line does is it looks at the week past. I created 5 rules that I teach in my charting course, and basis those rules, the swing line decides to draw the line to the up or down. This is an outside week down, so it would be to the top of the week, and then the market is still intact in terms of the higher lows, higher highs. Where's support? Well, to me, now the support has gotten over the last break low. So even if this market wanted to break 150 points in the S&P, I would be looking and saying the first support in the market's the 18-week moving average of closes. If that's support, where's resistance? The upper Bollinger Band. And if you'll notice, the market was riding it. It would hit it, couldn't really get anywhere in terms of thrusting far over it. It'd pull back, make another run, and it's rounding out against it. That's classic action on a Bollinger Band, and so far that is still not bearish action. In terms of momentum, when I use the momentum oscillator, the slow stochastics on a weekly chart, I only look to see is it pointing up, down, or sideways. This market is still in a bullish formation. So as much as we can get a correction anytime, and as much with all these unknowns, the chart action gave a pause today. Don't wipe that off. Are pros taking some money off the table? They could be. Why not? You're scared. You don't know what the situation quite is. Was money put to work today? Probably yesterday and today. New monies came into different sectors, had to invest, and so on. When looking at the NASDAQ, we have an outside week up. You wouldn't know it, right? Read the news, look at all of it. But if you take a look, higher lows, higher highs, you keep hitting that upper resistance area. And that's why I tell people, what I teach is you never buy or sell. You don't buy over a Bollinger Band, you don't sell under it. Generally, the market will give you better opportunities within those bands. Does it always have to? No, nothing always has to. And certainly, I don't know how this weekend's going to play out with Iran and the U.S. I can tell you the Dow did just what the S&P did. Key reversal right against that upper Bollinger Band. Warning sign now. So what's the pattern? Well, while I have the arrow here, it really belongs back here. I didn't know where it was going to settle until the last few minutes, and I must have forgot to move that. But the trend is up. Support's back at 27,538. That from here is not that far. We closed at 28,602. Is it a big number? It is, but it gives the market, and you got to remember, since December, what this market has done. If you take a look just at this part, and I was on with Liz Klayman on Fox today, and I brought that up. I said, Liz, look at what the market's done since December. That Santa Claus rally comes to an end at some point. You're in that time frame, in my opinion. In the Russell, momentum is still okay. The trend is still up. We got to the upper black bands, and that's where I think the pros took some money off the table. The market's backing off here, but nothing has turned bearish. In fact, on pullbacks of size to the 1586, 1571 level, I would think that there might be support there. You've had a bullish crossover on the moving averages. This was December 20th. You crossed over. And I don't think you've gone up to make a new high since that crossover. Typically, crossovers result in that. We'll see if this happens. In the VIX, for those of you that have my morning subscriber video where I do the dailies, I was telling you, I thought the pros might get nervous off that news, but the right thing to do is sell some calls against that top Bollinger Band is what the pros often do. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you what I see them often doing. They did that today. The market came right back to that 18-day average. But on a weekly event like we just went up for, you're only up 3 ticks on the cash VIX. A little interesting. 10-year note. Where do you think the resistance is? Let's backtrack here. Here's a market with lower highs, lower lows. What do I say on the first challenge of a Bollinger Band? That's where I think the pros are likely to take some money off the table. If you rally back up, and I don't know if you'll rally or not, I know the trend is down and momentum is down. Remember, you don't get overbought or oversold on weekly charts. I'm still looking for resistance at 129.22. Here's the market last week, and this is what you did today. So the bears still have control of price action. However, momentum is turning on them. Momentum often turns before price turns. So the question is that a warning sign? Bias down, trend down, warning sign out of momentum. TLT, you had a big reversal. On the weekly chart, if we look, this market had been in lower highs, lower lows. Would it make it to the lower Bollinger Band? This is last week, December 27th. You made the lowest low of the move, and you have a key reversal, outside day up. It's the lowest break low of this area. Is the market going to make a run for the 18-day average? 18-week average of closes is in my mind. But more important that you broke the downtrend. Now you've got a market that's got a lower low and a high that took out a previous high. I see a flat market here, bias down, momentum trying to turn up there. All makes sense because traders, I think, today got very nervous. And got to ask yourself, as we were going into the first of the year, they kept grinding on these interests. I was watching the 10-year getting over the 192 area going, what, are we going to 2% right away? Why? You got your bounce. Dollar index, no surprise. You got to the lower band and you're finding some support here. Momentum down, trend down. To negate the downtrend, you've got to take out 97.40 and a half. Barring that on rallies, still looks to me like the bears want to keep control of the market. On the euro currency, the market was strong, hit the upper Bollinger Band. That's where I'm looking for the first resistance. Now, there is something going on in this chart that's different than the others. Notice the sideways action. That's impressive. And from sideways action often comes trends. Now, the market again failed at that upper band. Yes, it made the highest high of the move, and no, it's not trending. You have a lower and low, higher high, but I'm starting to really watch that sideways action here. Mexican peso, you have a reversal in the chart. You've got lower highs, and now if you look at this week's low, 52.01, took out 52.04 until this week's high, I'm used to the daily chart, is taken out. The odds still favor this market might want to drift back into the 100-day and the 100-week and the 18-week average of closes. Momentum has not turned down. It's stayed up at this point. Canadian dollar up to the upper Bollinger Band. Now let's take a look. Market hadn't hit it all this time. I'd look for resistance on the first hit of it, and the market did that, and it added another 40 points. Momentum is up, bias up. It's not a trend. You've got lower and low, higher high. I'd be a bit cautious if you think this market can run from there. Japanese yen, you get a world situation. Where do people run? They run here. But forget this week. You started getting a pattern here that was turning on you right in this area. Hadn't turned. It was starting to. Momentum hadn't turned. This is the week where it turned. So now you have an uptrend, support back at the 18-week average of closes, bigger support 91.54. If it runs off of some event that happens over the next 3-4 days, whatever, well, then wherever that Bollinger Band comes in could be the resistance area. Bitcoin stuck between the 100-week average and the lower Bollinger Band. And as much as it rallied on the daily charts today, the weekly chart is still bearish until the market gets back up and over. Let me give you this high, 77.15. Take that out and you negate the downtrend. That doesn't mean you've started an uptrend, but it's pretty much a warning sign. This is a market that I'll be watching momentum as well. In the crude, and I'm talking WTI versus the Brent, the differential still staying in this $5.50 area, not changing dramatically. In the crude, you went back up. And if you look on the weekly chart, you're into this resistance of the 100-week average in green, the upper Bollinger Band. Obviously, we all know that crude is that one commodity that's very much at risk if the Iranians wanted to do something to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. As much as there'd be a battle, there'd be a world shortage instantly of product going through that area. That is what the market is looking at. It's dragging with it WTI because WTI is saying, well, gee, if you lose 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 barrels a day, we're here. We can make it up. The U.S. just hit it matched its record output with the EIA numbers today, 12.9 million barrels a day. I mean, we are an export country now, and that's dragging on that market, the same event. Gasoline up to the resistance of the upper Bollinger Band. Everything today, curious, interesting results out of it all, into resistance of the heating oil, and that's where I'm going to leave you. So if you're interested in what I do in my daily research, that is where I put out, number one, typically I start Sunday night. I issue a written commentary update and then trade recommendations with oral commentary that comes into your phone. In the morning, starting on Monday morning, I start recording videos. And I typically do this at 5:30 in the morning. By the time they're out, it could be anywhere from 6 to 7 a.m. as I do some editing and render them. That's all it is. I'm not in those. That is going to be 40 futures charts. Right now, it's got 5 ETFs. But I'm about to launch my ETF Spider update. And that's going to be done in the afternoons. Remember, the stock market closes at 3 p.m. Central Time, so I can easily do my update before I ever walk out the door for the next morning's opening on the spiders and ETFs. There'll be more about that, and yes, you'll be able to take a look at it and make a decision, is that for you? But I think for a lot of you, if you like what I'm doing here, you're going to like that because I'm able to say buy here, sell there, do this, do that. This is generally speaking stuff. How do you get all this? this? Well, number one, you want to get on our list, so you want to try a free trial to something. All you need to do is either call my staff or go to our website. On our website at the bottom right, it'll say Ira's free offers. Click what you want. You get into our system. You can try my market research if you haven't done that before, and you can click up here on this icon. If you're watching me on YouTube, it'll take you there. If there's any spiders or ETFs that you want me to cover, let me know. A lot of you have done it, and I've already put them into the mix. I'm about a third of the way in the software project. I should have it done sometime next week, and I'm going to launch the service very soon. So I'm Ira Epstein. You have a great weekend. I'll see you all Monday.